Alright, it's time to start a new franchise for Horror Franchise Wednesday, and I figured why not start the Underworld franchise, because I've owned this collection here on Blu-ray for quite some time, and I've never seen these movies. So let's start the franchise off with the first one, Underworld, which came out in 2003. And this movie is about a war that's going on between the Lycans and the Bloods. Selene, played by Kate Beckinsale, is a vampire, and she is a death dealer, meaning that she goes around hunting down Lycans. And the Lycans are looking for this guy who is the descendant of someone important who has special blood, and if they can get his blood, they can make themselves stronger with it. And just so you know, I watched the extended cut for this review. That's what came with this Blu-ray collection, the extended cut, making it an hour, 2 hours and 13 minutes long. And this is from the director of Live Free or Die Hard, Lynn Wiseman, and from writer Danny McBride, but not that Danny McBride, the other Danny McBride, who no one really knows about. This guy didn't even have a picture when I looked him up on Letterboxd, so I'm not sure what this guy's work is outside of this movie, but I saw the name at the end credits. It was like written by Danny McBride. I was like, that one? And no, some other Danny McBride. And also one of the writers is the deep voice werewolf guy in this movie. He was credited also as one of the writers. Interesting. So getting into the positives for Underworld, what I like about it is Kate Beckinsale. I thought she gave a good performance, and she's just distractingly beautiful, and her outfit is very sexy. I thought the makeup effects on Victor looked pretty awesome. He looked at first kind of like that weird scientist doctor dude in the Outlast video game. He had that kind of look going on. He's got really weird looking wrinkly skin and just looks all kind of slimy at first. He just looked almost like Skinless Frank in Hellraiser, but not really all as bloody, not as gory looking, but still he looked pretty freaky at first, and he slowly was like regenerating, and I thought the makeup on him looked pretty good. And I love the concept of werewolves versus vampires. I've never seen it in any movie before this. I've been watching a lot of vampire and werewolf movies as of late from the 70s, and I haven't come across one about werewolves versus vampires, so this might be the first one for all I know, and I'll give it credit for that if it is. I really like the concept, and I thought it was executed good. I liked the look of the movie, the color correction, how they made everyone look very pale because they're vampires and they never see the sun, but they kind of like desaturated the colors of the movie. It just looks almost black and white at times. I really liked the look of the movie, and the set designs were pretty terrific. It definitely feels like a big budget studio film. And I thought the action sequences were shot and edited good. It's not that 2000s very choppy one cut per second action that I absolutely despise. I thought it was all smoothly put together. It's not jarring and incoherent. It's well put together, and I like that style of action much better. I like that this movie left out a bunch of vampire cliches that just are kind of cheesy. They didn't ever whip out a cross or, take garlic or holy water. It's just the sunlight that kills them in this one. It seems like that's really their only weakness, and I like that. I like that none of them turn into bats. That just seems silly to me. I'm not a big vampire fan. I just find all that stuff really corny, and I'm glad this one left all that out. It's just the sun that kills them, and that's it. And I really appreciate the fact that this movie went with a serious tone, with a concept like, vampires versus werewolves. They could have made it a little funny, a little tongue-in-cheek, but this is a serious werewolf versus vampire movie. Getting into what I don't like about the movie is, unfortunately, this movie is very much a sign of the times when it comes to its visual effects and CGI. The transformations of the werewolves, it just took me right out of it. I was like, oh god, that's right. What year did this come out in? 2003? Yep, I can tell. And also the look of the werewolves, didn't really care for it. They're very like dark black, which I've never really seen before in a werewolf movie. Like they're like pitch black and like they've been burned or something. Uh, but I just wasn't a fan of the look. And I mean, take a look at Bad Moon. I just reviewed that movie recently. That's an awesome looking werewolf. This does not compare at all. I thought the actor who played Craven was a little weak, a little too theatrical in a couple of moments. He was really the only poor performance in the movie that stood out to me. And I thought the composer of this movie just went with very generic sounds. This film just, the score sounded very generic, like just kind of ripped out of some kind of sound library at times. And it's the same composer who's done a lot of movies, including Vacancy, which has Kate Beckinsale, a movie that I love. This is a very experienced composer, so I was kind of shocked to read that, seeing how bad and generic the score was. And this movie teases nudity, which I never like. This movie feels very PG-13. I'm assuming it's rated R because it says unrated, so you would think there would be nudity and gore, but none of that. I like werewolf movies and vampire movies with gore. That's why Bad Moon is a awesome werewolf movie. This just, it wusses out at every turn. Every time a werewolf is about to attack someone, you don't see shit. It's all cutaway, blood hits the window. Like, enough with that shit. I want to see werewolves like tackling people and then biting their throats out. That's what I want to see when I go to a werewolf movie. And we don't see that in this movie. We get awful looking werewolves who don't do anything on screen. And lastly, I just thought this movie didn't have any good surprises or twists that I didn't already see coming a mile away. Like, there's 2 or 3 in this movie, and I was like, yep, called it. Like, that's not shocking at all. So this is a movie that's pretty predictable what's coming around the next corner and where it's ultimately going to go by the end. So that's a bit unfortunate. There's no real good surprise in this. So final thoughts, this is a big, stylish action horror movie that speeds along and looks good, especially Kate Beckinsale, but it's just too tame for me, and I don't really like the CGI and the look of the werewolves, but I still enjoyed it. It was never boring. I was into the story. So when it comes to Underworld, I'll give it 3.5 out of 5. All right, time for a spoiler discussion. So I thought it was funny to see that there's like a underground werewolf fight club. These Lycans turn into werewolves and then start fighting each other. And the werewolves have UV bullets, and they shoot Selena's partner, and he starts to like melt away in like a blue ball of fire or whatever. And right before he died, he was like, "No, I didn't even have any lines in the movie." I mean, literally, the guy never says anything. He's like her partner, and all he does is nod at the camera, and now he's dead. And and this is really sad for Selena, but not for us, because who the hell is that guy? Rigel. And so she does this thing, Selena, that's been done in like 1,000 movies, and I really want to know what was the first movie to do it, where they take their guns and they shoot like a circle, whether it be in the wall or the floor below them, and then they stomp it so that it breaks open. Like, is that even possible? Like, it would take a lot of bullets to do that, and you have to shoot them like so close to each other, each bullet, to make that weak structure. Like, she does that in this movie very easily with her pistols, and boom, stomps her way down to the floor below. Like, how many movies have done that? Especially like before this. Jason X did it, I believe. What's her face? The robot chick with the nipples that fall off. She shot a hole around Jason, kicked him through the wall. It's been done so many times. I like the effect of the guy like spitting the bullets out of his body. His body's like rejecting the bullets. We find out that Lucian and Craven are working together and they're cousins, and it's like, what a shock. I saw that coming just because of how he kept behaving around Selena when she was trying to tell him that the Lycans were following someone. He's like, just drop it. It's like, why should she drop it? You should be just as concerned. Why were they following that guy in the subway? You should want to know this. The fact that you're acting like you don't is suspicious. So he just gave himself away too soon. And then they established that no one can survive a bite from a werewolf and a vampire, so you can't be both. You die. So they answered that question I had. But then there's a hybrid towards the end because of this guy's blood, so now it is possible at the end. And they have reflections. I noticed that. I was kind of looking for it, and there was a moment where they had reflections. These are vampires, so I guess that's not a rule in this movie's universe. But in any other vampire movie you watch, they always make mention of the fact that they have no reflection, which I'm glad they took that out of this too. I was talking about earlier how they don't bring up stakes, beheadings, garlic, and crosses and holy water. I'm glad they took all that shit out. I just think it's so silly. And they take out the reflection thing in this also. Great, because it makes no sense in those other movies. Like, okay, I get that you can't be seen, whatever, but your clothes that you're wearing should be visible. All right, so you would have to strip to be invisible in that mirror. It doesn't make sense that your fucking tie and suit are disappearing also in the mirror. We find out that they're able to clone blood through a company called Zyodex Industries, so that answers another question. Are these vampires going out, because there's a lot of them, are they going out into the city killing every single night? No, they are cloning blood, so they don't have to kill people. Then Selene talks about how she became a vampire, that Victor bit her and made her a vampire after the Lycans, the werewolves, came and killed her family and nieces. And right away, I was like, I smell bullshit. I think Victor killed her family. I've never seen this movie before. It was just, for some reason, obvious that that was just a lie. I figured that they were going to reveal something later on that was not true. Something that's unique to this movie that I've never seen in any other werewolf movie is a inside the body shot for the transformation sequence. We get to see his like rib cage and his inner, like his heart and everything inside, like changing into a werewolf heart and werewolf ribs and everything. I thought that was different and new, but the CGI kind of took me out of it. We find out that Victor, his daughter, was the wife of Lucian, his arch enemy, who's the leader of the werewolves. And, they were together, and it was an abomination in his eyes. He doesn't believe that werewolves and vampires should, have sex and be together, and that's what they were doing behind his back. So he killed his own daughter, burned her alive in front of Lucian, and that's what started the war. So Victor's a real piece of shit. So Selene bites her new boyfriend, Michael, who's already been bitten by a werewolf, and she's a vampire, so now he's both of them. He's a hybrid, and he can be a hybrid because of his special blood from his ancestor, blah, blah, blah. And then they have a quick fight, Victor and Michael, and it ends with a diagonal decapitation across the face, and it takes 15-20 seconds for this guy to realize that happened, which I thought was kind of funny. He has all this time to slowly get back up, whip around, and then draw his weapon, and then be like, oh wait, what happened? And then his head slides right off in CGI fashion. Then the movie ends with the blood of this one guy, the German guy from that movie Angst in 1983. His blood's leaking and falling onto one of the other elders, Marcus, and he wakes up and he's gonna start going after Selene because she's betrayed them by being with this hybrid, this abomination. So that's gonna be the next movie. She's gonna be on the run, she's gonna be hunted for betraying her group. And so yeah, that's the end of Underworld. What are your thoughts on this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.